In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Harley, welcome to the TARDIS Chronicles.
What? What's a TARDIS?
It's a time-traveling spaceship in the shape of a phone booth.
Phone booth? What's a phone booth?
Exterminate! Exterminate!
Oh crap! Harley, I hear Daleks coming. We better get this going.
Daleks? What? Where am I?
Relax, Harley. I'm just playing with you. Seeing as how this episode was very much a Doctor Who-inspired theme to start off with.
Oh, well, you had me worried for a second. Can we just get into some feedback and iTunes reviews?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay, that makes me feel much better.
But first, let's welcome everybody back to Tomorrow's Legends, just in case we confused anybody.
Oh good, this is Tomorrow's Legends.
It is. And I am the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn. So tonight we're here to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 7, Marooned.
So we had an iTunes review, one more. So I will let you read that, Harley.
Yeah, we did. We got one more US review from X-Force11, and he gave us...
Hey, our buddy!
I know, he gave us a 5-star review, stating it was a fun fan cast. And he left a pretty short review, so I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. He says, Martin and Jess connect across the continent to bring us a fun fan cast. They are loving Legends of Tomorrow and having a blast sharing all about the show with us. I'm so glad they decided to podcast about the show. They are fans turned podcasters who are learning and growing each episode. They have a great dynamic and reach out to listeners and draw them into the discussion. Keep up the great work, Wonder Twins.
Well, that's awfully nice of you, X-Force11. Thanks so much for your kind words.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we got some feedback, quite a good chunk of it this week.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start a little competition with Central City Underground because you and me, Harley, are an upstart podcast. As X-Force11 just said, we are fans turned podcasters, and our show is brand new. And last week we had 6 feedback responses, including voicemails and emails. So. And this week we have, 4 emails and 2 voicemails? Mm-hmm. So again, we're at 6. Now, Central City just announced, I don't know if you listened to their podcast last week, their final one before the break. Did you? I
did, yeah.
So they announced that their record for feedback responses is 12.
Is it 12 or 13?
Well, it was 12 the week before, and then they beat it by 1 this last week with 13.
Okay.
And these are pretty well-versed, experienced guys, and a long-running podcast, and we are already at half.
That's true, we are.
So, across the airwaves, high five to you, Harley.
High
five. That's pretty awesome. So thanks to all of you out there that are jumping on board with us and taking a journey on the Waverider, and yeah, we just appreciate it.
Yeah. It makes it great. It's always fun to have everybody else's input in addition to our own.
Totally. So, we have the way we described. We're going to read feedback that deals with previous episodes first and save the other feedback for this week's episode at the end. And we got one really long email, kind of a catch-up email from a new listener and a new fan to podcasting and comic book TV shows, and it's none other than my own girlfriend. Her name is Lisa, and she has really caught the bug. She's, I got her hooked on The Flash, and she absolutely loved it, and like we joked about last week, she started listening to our podcast just to, support me and you, because she was really grateful to you helping me out when I was down in Atlanta with you. Oh, by the way, just to let everyone know, my dear friend here, Harley, while I was in Atlanta with her, because she lives there, she allowed me to hook in through her phone's Wi-Fi, and I could phone all the way back to Canada to chat with Lisa for a little bit. So that was very cool. And
least I could do.
Yeah, and Lisa really appreciated that, and she already loves you and can't wait to meet you in person someday.
That'd be awesome.
So that's why she's supporting us. But then, as we joked about, I told her she has to start watching the show if she's going to listen to our podcast. And now, so we binge watched Legends in one day, got her caught up, and then she turned around and listened to every single episode of ours, like all 6 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. That's dedication. So
that is some serious dedication.
It's awesome. So she wrote in a nice long feedback email. It's her very first, to kind of catch up. She's catching up on all of it, so I'm going to read it through here. So, I have a couple of quick points. Use whichever you'd like, none, some, or all, because they don't all go together very well. I just caught up watching the show and binged on 6 podcasts, so now I'm all up to speed and looking forward to episode 7 and podcast 7. Okay, first, Legends episode 3. When Savage was killed again, after he killed Carter, you guys were wondering why the Legends of Tomorrow team didn't just bring Savage back to Kendra on the ship so she could kill him. We know that he's just going to reincarnate somewhere, since it wasn't Kendra that delivered the fatal blow. We don't yet know how he reincarnates. We've seen that he reincarnated from a pile of dust on the Flash, and this time we aren't sure what was done with his body. But I think since he was already dead, that Kendra couldn't re-kill him moments later. It has to be her. She is going to have to be training for that moment, and the team is going to have to develop around her to support her final attack. What I wonder, is Carter going to show up again somehow? And when they do finally kill Savage, what is going to happen to Shiara and Khufu? They are all connected, and seem to need each other to keep this immortal reincarnation circle going. So when one is taken out of the mix for the final time, will it destroy all of them? Good point there. Me and her talked about this, just amongst ourselves. The fact that she brought up that it wasn't Kendra that made the killing blow, it wouldn't work, because however Savage dies, he's going to reincarnate or regenerate from that. So her point of the fact that Kendra can't re-kill him because he's already dead makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too.
So to continue on, second point about Kendra, episode 4. I agree with your theory about Kendra having more trouble controlling her inner warrior without Carter around. I like that Sara and Kendra are trying to help each other, but I think perhaps Kendra is losing control because she has never been on the Earth without Carter. You guys alluded to that as well. It seems like they have always been killed at the same time, and this could be the first time they have been split up in time. A few weeks ago, she is suddenly Hot Girl, emerging and half-trained, and had been leaning on Carter until now to guide her and keep her on track as she remembers her abilities and past lives. Suddenly he is killed, and she is left with a huge missing piece. They are forced together, soulmates, and suddenly she is left with all of that energy and can't handle it without him present. I think it's going to get worse now that she remembers her feelings for him, so much uncertainty and power for her to handle, plus now a broken heart, look out. I think even though he thinks he researched and handpicked his team, that Rip doesn't really know what he has put together. This is such a volatile team. Kendra, as just discussed, a mercenary with a bloodlust, a kinda stable nuclear man with 2 halves who are still learning to work together, a supersuit with seemingly a lot of glitches, and 2 unpredictable criminals. I think that's part of the fun of this show. They could do so much with these characters. Again, another strong point which you and me had not thought of, Harley, was that this is, as far as we know, the first time Kendra has been without Carter. It seems like they were both killed at the same time, every single time.
Yeah, that's true. That is a really interesting point. I wonder how she's going to feel when she gets to watch this week's episode.
Yeah.
Since they've sort of addressed, not really, but sort of tried to address this whole pent-up feelings thing. I guess now she's going for Ray, even though her soulmate is dead. I don't know.
Well, we're going to get to that. Great point. Anyway, to continue on your email, because it does go on for some more. Now, episode 6 comments. Don't you think it's so ironic that Martin Stein was such a voice of wisdom and reason and ethics when he was imploring Rip not to leave Sara behind in 2046? Ironic because Martin persuaded Rip to stay and wait for her, citing that they don't want to become as immoral as Savage, right after Rip had convinced Sara to kill Martin in episode 5. Very true. It's kind of funny that I guess Stein does not yet know that, so yeah. To go on, I totally agree with the misplaced love triangle storyline with Jax, Ray, and Kendra. They don't have enough to worry about. It really took away from the sense of urgency and chaos happening outside of the ship, and it didn't fit into the show at all, in my opinion. A complete distraction from the whole point of the show, the team's peril as they were trying to escape being stuck in 2046, and the mission to stop Vandal Savage. Captain Cold is, hands down, my favorite character. He is hilarious, and there's been some great personal evolution happening which has been fun to watch. I think it will be interesting to see where this growth leads him. I'm also intrigued by the friction between Cold and Mick. There may be some difficult decisions in their imminent future, between remaining loyal to their historical partnership and embracing the new team dynamic and their individual team roles in saving the world. Boy, oh boy, is she going to be shocked by this episode.
I know. I was just thinking that.
We'll get to that later, too.
Yeah, we will.
She continues, they're both reluctant heroes, but I think they will be put in more positions which will not give them much choice in becoming legends of tomorrow. They started out going on the journey just to thieve and steal, and we are already seeing that they feel compelled to do the right thing when the moments are presented.
Well.
Mick hauling Ray out of the prison, and Cold a few times now, stepping in to schmooze Valentina when Ray was failing, and then running through the crossfire to save the Thermocore and leaving the team and Rory behind at the lab. I also love the debate on the Facebook page about Captain Cold, Harley's couch sessions, and I remain convinced that Captain Cold has a good side. I hope I'm right. Looking forward to your next topic, Harley. Cool. Little shout out to the new couch sessions.
Yeah.
And her final, now just a couple of general comments. We warned you guys this was a long email, but hey, she's catching up, so this is great. I love all the throwback comments in this show. Little hidden references to everything from Prison Break to Eyes Wide Shut to other comic book storylines and characters to Top Gun. Lots of fun. Great job, you two. You're the first podcast I've ever followed, and you've been a lot of fun to listen to. I wonder if there's a little biasness there.
Maybe just a little bit, but I'll take it.
Me too. It started with catching up on The Flash, and now I'm watching Legends. My old TV shows seem so tame now in comparison to these ones. You guys have a great dynamic and great chemistry, and both bring unique perspectives to the show. Specifically Flash's comic book history knowledge and explaining where storylines are coming from, and Harley's time travel passions and quote line observations. I especially enjoy how you two debate your storyline and character theories and try to predict where the show may lead us. And on a personal note, I also love grammar and language, and you are both very eloquent. Maybe not so much tonight.
Maybe not tonight.
Very enjoyable to listen to. Definitely a 10 out of 10, and keep up the great work.
Aww. That was so sweet.
It was very sweet of her. And by what she's saying about her old TV shows seem so tame, I mean, she watches Grey's Anatomy and Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, so it's kind of funny when we're seeing the excitement. You should watch her when she watches The Flash. It's amazing. She gets so excited. I enjoy watching it with her because she's right on the edge of her seat. It's funny.
That's fantastic.
But then she finishes off, she's like, from Lisa, please just Lisa. And she's like, I don't have a superhero name yet.
I do have some thoughts about that.
I've been jokingly calling her Patty Spivot.
Oh, that was my idea!
Was it?
Yes! And if you like that, I was going to suggest Iris.
I've been totally calling her my Patty. Because just watching her energy and her excitement, I just enjoy it so much. And the fact that I go by The Flash, it kind of seems perfect.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, she's being called Patty Spivot from now on.
I think you just got nominated, Lisa. That's your superhero name. Although Patty doesn't really have any superhero powers, technically.
She's a super smart, awesome CSI. That's her superpower.
Yeah, and Lisa is very observant and technical and loves all things sciencey like that too. So it is a perfect fit. There you go.
All right, done. You're Patty Spivot.
Thank you, Lisa / Patty Spivot, for your extremely long email and your kind words and your deep analysis and all that stuff. It was great, just great.
It was great. Good stuff.
So that's pre-show feedback. Now we're gonna let's get right to the episode. How's that sound, Harley?
That sounds great. I think we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right in here.
All right. Well, I just finished reading a long email, so let's listen to your voice for a little while. What's your take on this episode?
Oh, okay. I know that sounded a little downer, but I loved this episode. It was very intense. I was on the edge of my seat most of the time. Like, I usually try and take notes while I'm watching it. The first time around, I I wrote down nonsensical things. It was exclamation points like, that was really awesome, or I can't believe they used that quote. And so I just thought it was a very fun episode. It was really nice to get a sci-fi episode. So we kind of went from a time travel episode / apocalyptic feature episode to a sci-fi centric episode, which was nice. It was again savageless, if you will.
That's a good,
yeah.
Savageless.
And there was a lot of good character development, but even though we saw a lot of growth in many of our characters, there was still that intense action. The fight sequence at the end was absolutely phenomenal. The way it was cut together, it was so good.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So those were kind of my initial reactions. I am going to have a nitpick because it was a space travel centric episode. And in my opinion, they made a very glaring error, but that is one of those things that tends to get under my skin.
Well, we will get to your nitpick too.
I will elaborate later.
Cool. You have a very specific nitpick. I have an overarching nitpick for this week, so.
Okay. What did you think about it?
Well, my feelings, I did really enjoy this episode too. I loved it. It was tense. There was moments, things were building because this show, at the same time, it had characters bonding and becoming tighter as a team, whether they were in pairs or groups. You could see them bonding and really realizing that they're in this situation together and they got to get out of it together. And then at the exact same time, we had a very specific character and a very specific pair falling apart. So there was like growth and death in one episode, and that's where the intensity came from. And yeah, it was good, and I'm going to go back. I can't wait to go watch it again with Lisa because she hasn't seen it yet, so I want to just dive into it without worrying about keeping track of notes or anything like that. I also enjoyed that they had some history to the Time Masters. There was a lot of backstory just to show us how the whole thing works, how the rules and their hierarchy and the way they go about protecting time. I really enjoyed that part of the story as well.
Yeah, I did too.
But my favorite part, I think, I just loved all the sci-fi references. I mean, they made jokes about Star Trek, Star Wars, Back to the Future. Martin Stein being surprised and going, "Great Scott!" Which it was
my
funny
favorite part.
because I used that last week just as a funny thing, and then he ends up actually doing it this week. And
I think that made it that much funnier for me.
Yeah, totally. And then, of course, Captain Cold calling Palmer Captain Picard, which was my favorite Star Trek captain. And then Palmer responding with, "No, I'm more like Sulu or Han Solo." And it was great. It was so much fun. So,
It was.
yeah. So yeah, I this was probably one. I gotta say, one of, if not the best episodes so far. It just had a good, solid completeness to it.
Yeah, it did. This episode and the one before, Star City 2046, they were very self-contained, and because they had to be, because there was there's no Vandal Savage or no.
We were also Chronosless.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that because I think we do need a break from that, and so it's good. But so it was good to take a couple weeks off. But I think hopefully next week it sounds like we're going back after Vandal Savage based on the ending. So
Right. Well, so before we dive into we're kind of going to cover this episode a little bit chronologically, but I think I'm going to open up with my overarching nitpick, because I know we're going to get to yours. Yours is going to pop up a couple times, so.
it is, and it's very specific. So let's go ahead and start with yours.
I was thinking this week about the show and thinking about the timelines they've gone to and stuff, and it actually started to bug me. This is an overarching nitpick. It started to bug me. We're on a time travel show. You have a time machine. So tell me, why wouldn't you take advantage of that and go way back in time? Say to like the Roman period when Rome was at its height, dominating the world, or go back to like Robin Hood, like Star Trek Next Generation did. Or even like kind of along the Roman timeline, go back to the Spartacus era and see some history there. Like seriously, you have a time machine and all you did was go back 20 to 30 years to the 1970s? I mean, Savage has been around since ancient Egypt, which we figured out the Middle Kingdom area is roughly 2000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is plenty of historical periods back then that they could travel to when Savage does not have a fraction of the knowledge that he has now. He does not have the armies built up. He does not have the power. You could go back and get him at a weaker point in history.
Mm-hmm.
And you could give us some very, very cool time travel episodes. Can you imagine seeing them back in Rome and they have to dress up in, white white sheets or whatever. What do you call those things?
Togas?
Togas, that's the word. See them having to wear those or dress as Spartacus-type gladiators. And you could have so much fun. Or England during King Richard times, things like that.
Ooh, that would be fascinating. Or during the King Henry with the Tudors.
Yeah, I'm sure Savage was around for all of that too, as they've explained that he's influenced the worst times in history. So why not give us those kind of awesome, adventurous episodes?
I know, and that's true. And I think that would be a lot of fun to play with, so it would be awesome if they did that. The only, almost, it's not, it's kind of a counterpoint, I guess, to that is I'm thinking, since the whole point is to go after his power, so they're trying to cripple him instead of kill him, or have we moved back to killing him?
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
I guess, because we have Kendra who can technically kill him because she has to be the one to do it, but they established pretty early on that they were just going to attack his power and kind of try and cripple him. So if they're still on the crippling phase, they would want to hit him in the areas where he would be the most powerful, that would influence the future, I guess. That's kind of the only thing I can think of as a counterpoint to that. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, but he's already at a certain amount of power, and then you want to take his money or whatever to cripple him so he doesn't get any more powerful.
So he just doesn't go any further.
But
Okay.
I mean, you could take that same idea and go farther back and cripple him farther back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just... Really, I was just bringing it up because it's a time travel show with a time machine. Why wouldn't you go back and really have some fun with it? Because really, you went back 30 years to the 70s, and then you went to the 80s, and okay, that's our very recent history. It's they could do a lot more fun with it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. They definitely could. Especially with some of these time periods in history, they're just very interesting. It would be interesting to have a take on that.
How about feudal Japan?
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Or the Vikings. Christopher Columbus time period. I don't know anything. And I guess maybe it comes down to budget, because that would be a huge undertaking to recreate those time periods, where it's very easy to recreate the 70s and the 80s. On a brand new show, you don't maybe have the budget yet.
That's true, and there's already a lot of special effects probably eating up their budget.
Yeah. But I mean, they did Egypt. They did Egypt in Flash and Arrow, and in the beginning of Legends, they showed us Egypt, so they can pull that off.
True. Yeah. That's true.
Anyway, that's my overarching nitpick, if anyone has.
I think it's valid.
Yeah. So, now, to get into the episode. Why don't you start us off, Harley? Where we're going to go first?
Well, like I said, we're going to try and tackle this more or less chronologically without giving an episode recap.
Okay.
So kind of, I guess, in the opening scene, we see that Rip is he's watching a video from his wife and son. Mm-hmm. And to me, I assumed that was the last transmission that he received from them.
I got that feeling too.
Yeah. So I thought that was it was a good way to set everything up, because you see his emotional state. You see how he's really feeling that he's completely screwed up and he's lost his wife and child and it's his fault. And so he's kind of in that dark place, and it sets up, for why he's on edge. He's a little bit unstable. He yells at Dr. Stein for no reason. Doesn't even know he's been in his office for a week? He's like, it's been a week.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it kind of set his mood a little bit.
And it also connects us back to his time period, 2166, when his wife and son get shot by Savage.
Right.
Him watching the last video that they send, and his wife saying that there's lots of soldiers in London, it kind of connected the story that, okay, this must be right before Savage attacks and destroys London and ends up killing the two of them.
Right,
so
right.
It did connect that a little bit, so yeah.
Yeah, it provided a little bit more context to the flashbacks that we keep seeing. Or flash forwards, or however you want to term those.
Because they're flashbacks from the future?
From the future, yeah, which is interesting.
You can't really call them flash forwards, but I guess you could.
It's a flashback from Rip's perspective because it's his past, even though it occurs in the future technically.
There's a challenge to anybody listening. Name that. We can't call it flash forwards, and they're not really flashbacks. Let's come up with a new term for.
New term for it.
There you go.
There we go.
Now, they did mention a cool thing, though, in the beginning there. When the time ship returns to the vanishing point after a mission, its CPU is updated from the temporal database. In the beginning, like going chronologically in the episode, and when I first heard that, I was a little bit confused. Does that mean Gideon is kind of hung up right now? She's temporarily down until she has to get patched with the latest data? Because, like, normally Rip would be going through different time jumps that he's doing, but he always comes back to the vanishing point to complete his mission or let the Time Masters know he's done and get his next mission, whatever it is. So he's always coming back, and it sounds like Gideon gets patched at that point every single time. So now that he's been traveling through history and never going back to the vanishing point, is Gideon kind of behind? It's I think like with Windows or Mac operating systems, you're constantly downloading updates for them. So if she doesn't get her updates, does that mean she's not going to work as well?
I mean, that's exactly how I took it. Because even Dr. Stein even alludes to it. He says, "Oh, so she needs a software update," and that makes sense to me because if you're thinking you're having all these different people going back and forward and all throughout time and doing all of these missions, eventually they're going to be affecting the timeline. So as those things change and as, I guess, history re-cements itself, they need to go back and, I guess, upload into the formal database everything that's happened. So to me, that means Gideon just doesn't have the latest information to process, so she's having a hard time trying to figure out where they should go next because she doesn't know everything that's happened in the last few weeks or however long it's been.
Yeah, that's just hard to get your head around.
It is. I agree.
You have to go to the end of time to update the computer on what's happened. Based on any changes that they have made, it would, I guess, time ripple throughout time up until the vanishing point, and so all their data would change or update. Essentially, it updates. So she needs to get updated on everything that's changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense. It is just
yeah, it was a weird way to kind of put it, but I think after talking through it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the next big thing that really happens that's kind of interesting is we get this distress signal, and that's when we learn that the Waverider is not only a time ship, it's a spaceship. And I think to some degree, I know I had kind of already assumed that this would happen, but when they said that, I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get like an actual true sci-fi episode. Because I was wondering if we were ever going to see that.
I was exactly like that. I was kind of like, wait, what? Deep space travel? Cool. Like that, because I love space stuff. I love anything traveling through space. That's why I watch Star Trek, and I love the new show, The Expanse, right now. Anything to do in space. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Even though we kind of assumed, but because if you have a ship like they have, that's not what. If it's just a time travel device, that's normally not what they look like. It wouldn't need to be a big flying spaceship.
Right.
It'd just be a time travel device. So it was
true. Apparently, it can be a phone booth.
Did you notice the theme music totally different during the opening credits?
I actually did not. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up, and now I want to go back and re-listen to it.
I will insert it right here so you can hear it. There you go.
I guess it is. It is different. It's a lot more intense.
It is intense. It is completely different
than what we normally get.
Than what the normal, as the opening excitement happens, and then you see all the symbols and then the words "Legends of Tomorrow" flat. It's completely different.
I guess I was so into it that I wasn't realizing that it was completely different. But it's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. I loved it. Oh, I also I loved how Rip was just walking around in like casual lounge clothes.
I found that very amusing. I was like, he's a little dressed down today.
Yeah, like track pants and a t-shirt kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I almost for a second there I thought he was gonna be in that clothing for his mission because he sat down to pilot the ship in those lounge clothes.
I know. I thought that was weird. He sat down and I was like, oh, you're like in pajamas, bud. You're just, okay, I guess we're gonna go for it.
Gonna go for it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
And it was cool. Stein got pretty excited too when he realized that they're going to be flying through space, and he said something about Space Rangers, and he got all excited he got the same excited that Ray Palmer usually gets when they're about to go do something fun.
Yeah, that's true. He did, and to me, it just was like perfect. Like, of course, Dr. Stein wanted to explore space. It fits in with his physics degree. It just totally makes sense to me. Anyway, so we got kind of our first flashback. I'm going to just call them flashbacks
Well, there was quite a few of them this episode, way more than usual.
Yeah, there were a lot, and I liked them because I liked the context it provided. It clarified the relationship. We learned that Miranda was a time master.
Yeah, I did not expect
that. I
did
not know that or expect that to be coming either. Yeah. And we kind of already knew that the relationships were forbidden, but we didn't know, I guess, to the extent how serious it was if they got caught in one. And especially since they were both time masters.
Yeah.
So I guess the offense was that much worse.
Well, they explained it. They would both get kicked out of the time masters. Simple as that.
Yeah, there wasn't even going to be much of a discussion. No. And then she resigned, and I guess that solves the problem. I was a little unclear about that. I still thought they would kick both of them out, but...
Well, we didn't hear exactly what her story was, but the one time master had said to Rip that her story, she spoke a very convincing story that it was all her fault and all her doing to start this relationship, so they're kind of letting Rip off the hook because of what she said.
This is the first mention that the AIs have different names.
That took me by surprise, because
me too.
Not so much that it wasn't Gideon, it's just the fact that we've been wondering about this since the very beginning when we first heard Gideon, and we got all excited like kids in a candy shop.
We sure did, and it may or may not be the topic of my next Couch Sessions question.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the first one we heard was Gary.
Yeah, we heard Gary, and it was a male voice.
It was a male voice,
which was different.
Yeah, so does that mean that every time ship has a different AI, different voice, different personality, per se?
I was wondering that. I was also wondering if female captains get male counterparts, and male captains get female counterparts.
Interesting. I wonder why that would be.
I don't know why that would be, but on the other ship that we're going to rescue, I think it's Captain Baxter, her AI is Gilbert, and he is male, and she is a female captain.
So not only are they male and female counterparts, so far that's 3 AIs all starting with the letter G.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? It kind of answered our theory, but now it's presenting a more expanded version of it. Why are they all starting with G?
I know. I don't know. I have no idea. But it is really interesting. Because I was starting to lean towards the fact that it's more of a Siri interface, which this would lead you to believe that it's more of a Siri interface, given that they all have different names and slightly different personalities, for lack of a better way to explain it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting they all start with G.
But Gilbert? Seriously, Gilbert?
Well, Gideon? That's not a woman's name, I don't think.
But it's a cool, futuristic sounding kind of name.
That is true.
Wait, with your theory about it being Siri, did you see that movie that wasn't not too old, I think it just came out last year, called Her?
I did not. I did not see it.
Oh, it's such a good movie. If no one's seen that, go check it out because it's very much it's about operating systems being so advanced that just do everything for you, and they're so alive sounding. And the one guy who buys his new operating system, he ends up falling in love with it because she is so human-like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, to bring it back to the episode, is that kind of like that? These operating systems are all personalized to each ship. And the captain seems to have almost a relationship with that ship's system.
I think that's a definite possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you go watch the movie Her, and then we'll talk about it later.
Okay, I will. I also thought it was interesting that they refer to Rip Hunter as the infamous Rip Hunter. And I would like to know why.
Yeah, because when you're infamous, it's a little bit different than being famous.
Indeed. And is he infamous to the Time Pirates, or is he infamous to everyone?
Yeah. And why? Why would he be infamous? What did he do?
Yeah, and we know a little bit since he's basically a rogue Time Master, and we see this in a later scene where Captain Baxter, she has some serious disdain for him, and she hates him.
Yeah, where did that come from?
I was not expecting that, but by the end of it, you kind of understand, because through all the flashbacks, you understand kind of their oath and their code, and you just don't break that. And she didn't know until the end why he broke it, which is the only reason apparently she didn't arrest him. I just thought that was really interesting that he was infamous to the Time Pirates, and it's the only infamous to the Time Pirates, or would Baxter also refer to him as infamous because of what he's done?
Well, I just looked up the actual meaning of the word infamous, and it says having an extremely bad reputation.
Interesting.
Maybe it just leads back to the fact that he stole a time ship to go on his own mission that was not given to him by the Time Masters. Maybe that gives him that title, that infamous title.
Yeah. I mean, it would fit in both cases, because if he's infamous to the Time Pirates because he's hunting them down, then to a Time Pirate, he's going to have a terrible reputation of killing them or arresting them or whatever it is he does to them.
Very
and
true.
Then also towards the other Time Masters, because he's gone rogue and gone off on this other mission. He's stolen a the Waverider, a time travel machine, and he's basically, as far as they can tell, changing history to his own purposes. They don't know why, don't care.
Well, he's just infamous all around.
Yeah, sounds like it. We digress a little, but I thought that was very interesting.
Whether we're going to see her again to get any more answers to that story, I don't know.
I doubt we'll see her again, but we might. I'm wondering if we'll see another Time Master again to kind of add some more to his backstory.
I think we're going to kind of have to.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So there's a whole kind of series. It was kind of right after the Time Pirates take over the ship and capture the team. And then you kind of start cutting back and forth between the two spaceships. And so I loved that he's preset Gideon to these key phrases to do all of these like battle maneuvers and like fire on the ship that's got him captive and all of these things.
Now, do you think these are long programmed key phrases, or did he do it just before leaving to go on the other ship?
I don't know. I mean, they seem to roll off his tongue pretty quick, so it seemed like it might be something he had done in the past.
That's the feeling I got. It was a practiced defense, I think.
Yeah. And he almost and he could have done it just before he left, because everybody had the feeling that it was a trap. He even admitted to as much himself, but he's like, we have to do it. We need this intel. We need a way to update Gideon. Otherwise, we're never going to find Vandal Savage. We're just going to travel through time and space.
Yeah.
And then throughout this is where we get the great Scott quote, which is fantastic. I love that the first thing he does is blame Ray, and Gideon's like, not that captain, or captain, or something like that. And then, of course, Dr. Stein comes to their rescue after all.
He's just having a ball with getting to play hero, and he's on a spaceship, he's time traveling, space traveling, and he's gets to be a hero and play out his little Space Ranger fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. I mean, there's that scene, and maybe I'm jumping a little farther in the episode, I can't remember where it took place, but when he he takes that soldier in behind the closed door, and you just hear a whole bunch of punches and kicks and grunts and groans, and he's laying the smackdown, and I'm thinking, what? How did Martin Stein can fight like that?
I thought that too. Yeah.
He comes back out, and he's got the guy's uniform on, and the little beret, and the gun, and he's got a big smile on his face, and I'm thinking, whoa.
Oh no, I know exactly what scene you're talking about, because after that he says, "That'll teach you to mess with a nuclear physicist." Best quote ever.
Which, really? What does that even mean? Nuclear physicist? That doesn't mean any type of fighting skill.
Well, I think that's what makes it so funny. So
That's
I don't
why
know.
it was funny, yeah.
He must have picked something up. I don't know. Maybe he's learned it from Jax somehow, or he's just having, I don't know, maybe he's having private fight lessons with Sara. Who knows?
Who knows? But it was just funny. It was such a great scene.
It was fantastic because it's not what you were expecting. You were not expecting him to, pull some guard aside and then all of a sudden walk out as if nothing ever happened. Totally just like beat him down, takes his gun. He's like, "That'll teach you to mess with a nuclear physicist." So great.
Oh, great. It made me want to see it, though. I wish we could have witnessed what he was doing. But that might have not been as funny if they did show us, so.
I know. I think it almost made it better that it was off camera. I'm going to sort of get into my nitpick a little bit.
All right.
All right. So to get into this nitpick that I have, the first time we sort of see it is when Captain Cold, he's using his gun to fix the hole, which was very cool. And I actually really liked that until I thought about, is the hole actually supposed to be completely to the outside? Because if that were the case, they would be dead. They would be very, very dead. And I will get into why in a minute. But.
Even a bullet-sized hole would create a vacuum so strong that, it would suck all the air out. And
yeah, at the very least.
Yeah.
At the very least, it would suck all of the air out and you would be instantly dead. Cool effects aside, I was like, okay, if that goes straight to the outside, then that's not technically correct. And I was like, okay, well maybe it doesn't, And then we kind of go along through the episode, and then they talk about airlocks, but then they never actually use them. They basically just open a door to space. And again, it's a vacuum, and you can't do that. Like when you take something pressurized and then immediately open it up to a vacuum, at the very least, it just sucks all the air out, but it's going to completely depressurize everything, like, instantly. I mean, think of what that would do to a spaceship. I mean, it would be like taking a soda can and like crushing all the air out of it like super quickly. That's what should happen. And you can build safeguards in, and that's why you have airlocks, because you step into the airlock and it depressurizes and then it equalizes with the vacuum outside, and then you go out into space and you don't have those types of issues.
Right.
They seem to mention these airlocks, but then they never actually use them. And it bothered me. A lot.
It sounds like it bothered you a little bit.
Yeah, I told you. When it comes to space travel, that there are a few things that will really bother me, and that is one of them. When they treat space as if it's not a vacuum, as if it has an atmosphere, and it doesn't at all.
Well, if I can counter you a little bit on that.
Absolutely, please do.
I have a feeling, because as you said, they didn't even show the airlocks. I have a feeling, as we've seen on other space set shows, any decent spaceship, when there's a breach or a door or whatever, and even Star Trek used them, there's like a temporary force field of some kind that keeps the vacuum of space at bay. Mm-hmm. In the instance of a breach until repairs can be made. Otherwise, it'd be a pretty useless spaceship that if any, they could fly past a little meteorite or something that'll rip into the ship. And if a hole can just
exactly
be punched through the wall and then everything gets depressurized and blown out to space. I mean, it's not a spacefaring ship or spacefaring vessel then. So I'm thinking that they probably were using that a little bit here. Even when Ray opened the door, I've seen on other shows before, doors opening, and there is an invisible barrier there, and they just pass through it. It can keep space out and atmosphere in, but you can still pass through it. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if they use that. They just didn't, either they forgot or didn't write that in or decided they don't need to show us that. That's where I'm kind of laying my bets down that it was just, they're going with the invisible barrier or force field of some kind that's there. Because why waste precious seconds of screen time by showing us them having to go into an airlock and depressurize and da-da-da, because that's more safe for movies and not a 45-minute TV episode.
Oh, absolutely. I get why they totally just gloss over it and try and mention it and try and make us believe that they've actually done that, because they talk about it. I mean, Kendra even says it. She says, bring him back into the airlock and then lock the cargo bay and let me know when he's back inside or something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, they mention it. But then when I rewatch the scene, he just walks straight out, and there could be an invisible barrier there. I'm not going to argue that point. I mean, that's a valid point. It absolutely could be the case. The last thing that did bother me is when they use that maneuver that Rip learns from his wife in that simulator, and it basically sucks all the bad guys out into space as if you're on an airplane and you open the door of the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the invisible barrier thing necessarily applies there, since they were all being essentially sucked out, quote unquote.
And only the bad guys got sucked out, while the good guys could hang on to edges of the hallway or whatever they were hanging on to. And
they didn't die when all the air would have been, and oxygen would have been completely sucked out along with those bad guys.
Well, yeah, that's like how much and how fast gets sucked out.
That's what I'm going back to. Space is a vacuum, and you are in a pressurized vessel, and you immediately open that up to the vacuum. It sucks it all out. It does bad things.
All right. Well, I tried to counter you a little bit. My only other countering attempt is that it's comic book space. So, comic book space maybe behaves differently. I don't know.
It behaves differently in that it's comic book space and it doesn't have to follow real rules. That's it.
There we go.
I had to throw that out there because it's always a nitpick of mine. Always.
Hey, you're allowed to have a nitpick. I've been having one nitpick per episode and you haven't really had any, so it's good you came up with a big one this time.
Yeah, that's my big one. So I'll come down off my soapbox now.
Okay.
Okay, so I sort of jumped around a little bit. So where does that leave us here? What do we want to cover next?
Oh, well, I think it was right at just after that point when we saw Captain Cold trying to seal the breach with his cold gun. Mm-hmm. And Sara asks him how much longer he can do it, and he said, not much more, I'm running out of charge. And that was the first time in any, I think, whether it was Flash or Legends, that we've seen what is powering that gun, because I wasn't sure if it was some type of fuel that he had to continually gather from somewhere, or did he actually have to charge the gun somehow? Is it like battery operated where he's got to recharge the battery cells? I didn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
The way it looked, they did it in this episode, he said he's running out of charge, so he basically can blast it for a while, and it runs out of charge, and then not 10 minutes later in the episode, he's firing the gun again. So I'm wondering if it's kind of like a cooldown. He can blast it for a while and then has to cool down and recharge itself to be able to fire up the cold ray again. That's what it seemed like, and that's all it seems to take.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't clear, but I did like that they illustrated that it has a time limit and a specific amount of quote-unquote charge that it can use.
Yeah.
And I wasn't clear if it was the cold ray mechanism that was being recharged, kind of like a photon blaster or something, I don't know.
Right.
Or if it was the actual power source of the gun, different from the actual cold ray that needed to be recharged.
Hard to say. One part of it though, but at the very least, it's not even battery operated. Just something needs to be
recharged. Yeah.
The gun needs to, and it didn't seem to take very long either that he could get another shot off, because it was soon after that scene where they faced off in the hallway and
he was able to use it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did like that they addressed that. It's good to know that it has a finite length of time it can work for.
Yeah, because it makes sense. You shouldn't be able to fire an energy weapon like that continuously on end without ever running out of something, because that doesn't make sense. How does the gun power itself?
Exactly, hand wavy comic book physics,
Yeah.
as we've been talking about. But that does, once they get locked in there, that leads us to these great scenes between the two of them. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, totally. Like the scene between Sara and Cole is just, Sara comes right out bluntly and says, I don't like you, but at least I'm not alone.
Yeah, and then he asks her, he's like, well, what's it like to die? I hear you have experience with that. I was like, oh, wow.
Talk about a deep question to ask. Oh, and personal.
Very, and I loved her answer. It was not what you would expect, but at the same time, exactly what you would expect.
Yeah, and it was just neat to see that, and that brings back to what I said in the beginning, just seeing some characters develop a stronger bond and basically get to know each other.
Yeah.
And how else, when people are dying, they often, all of their emotions and feelings come to the surface, things that they want to say, and the sense of not holding back anymore, and that's kind of what was happening here.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, Snart opens up a little bit too. He explains the background a little bit of him and Rory, how they met, and that he saved his life.
Oh, that was so interesting, because I'm sure that's been on everybody's mind, because they keep calling back to these two being so tight, and they've had each other's backs for so long, and they've been partners for so long, and okay, well, how far back does that go, and why? What was the initial moment that made them so loyal to each other?
Yeah, and it also explains why Mick Rory's been so mad with Snart. I mean, when he knocked him out and he brought him back from 2046 and basically said, do as I say, it was no longer a I've got your back kind of thing, or it's a partnership, it's I'm in charge of you, and this guy's like, hey, I saved your life. You are the only reason I am here, and you're treating me like this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I can kind of side with Heatwave there. I understand his sense of buddy bonding, that partnership. Like, it's been just you and me since we were 14. Why would you stab me in the back now? Why would you do this kind of thing? Why are you choosing these new people that have only known you for a couple weeks over me? I can understand why that would upset him.
Exactly. And then, to add insult to injury, when you get to that scene where Rip, he just totally tears into him. And he's just like, you have the IQ of meat, and the only reason you're here is because we wanted your partner. And I was like, wow, way to be brutally honest. I felt so bad for the guy.
I felt bad for him too. It kind of brings a tear to the eye. Like, poor Rory. Like, yeah, you're no longer at that moment. You're not thinking of him as Heatwave, as the badass that he is, and whatever. You just, like, as a human to human thing.
Yeah.
That was like, Rip actually really ticked me off there. I did not like him in that scene. That was really, it really showed to me that, okay, Rip isn't behaving like a good leader. He is not a good leader. He's acting like an ass.
I thought he was out of line.
Yeah, he was out of line. It was uncalled for, and I was on Mick's side there for sure. Like, that was uncalled for. He doesn't deserve to hear those kind of things. He's helped the team out a lot. He's put his own butt on the line in the two-part episode when they were stuck in Russia. Mick's been there. He's like, he came to the rescue and get everybody out of here. I'll keep these guys at bay, kind of thing. He did not deserve that treatment at all.
I didn't think that he did either. It sets it up for why he's going to betray the team, because at the very beginning of the episode, he was talking about how he was recruited specifically for his skills to burn things, to be an arsonist. And then Rip's like, I don't have any need for a serial arsonist. The only reason you're here is because I needed your partner. And I was like, ooh.
A low blow.
Yeah, it's a very low blow. And I thought, I was like, even then I was like, well, this might be the beginning of the end for Heatwave.
Yeah, and like you said, it makes sense why he will betray the team, because not only is his only partner and friend in life choosing them over him, but the captain of the ship also just told him, you're worthless to me. We don't actually need you. What's there to keep? What is there to keep him there? There's nothing. It's
Exactly.
Why not just fight for his own life and get out of there?
Yeah.
So I can't really blame him for doing what he did. It hurts us and it hurts the team. It tugged on the heartstrings. Didn't want to see that happen, but you can't blame him for doing that. In all honesty.
No, not after the way he was just treated in his eyes, the way he was treated by Snart and then by Rip. I thought that was a little uncalled for, but.
Yeah, and I mean, it even surprised me the way Cold was talking to him and treating him, because I kind of thought they were going to patch it up. Even though the way last episode ended and we knew there was going to be some trouble, I still thought eventually their long history together would come through and they would patch things up and find a way to work it out.
I thought so too until he gets back on the Waverider with the pirates and he goes for the time drive. At that point, I was like, he's not coming back. He's exactly like Sarah said, he's in a dark place and he's not coming back.
That he can't come back from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I seem to be able to see that from her experience, I'm guessing, in the League of Assassins. She's got that experience to recognize when someone is too far gone. I
mean, so that sort of leads in to this fight sequence that we're seeing on both ships and how everything is sort of stringing together, because it starts when Rory comes back in with these space pirates and then Snart has to choose a side and he chooses not Rory's side. And so that I thought was a very interesting pivotal change for Captain Cold.
It actually surprised me because the facial expressions that Cold was giving, I thought he was choosing Rory no matter what, hands down. The way he was looking at him, the way he was responding, I thought, oh, okay, he has just pointed the gun at them. He's going to side with Heatwave and just get off the ship and save their own butts.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
That
surprised me.
It kind of surprised me too, but then I think because of all the conversation he'd been having with Sarah, and Sarah was saying that Mick he's gone, he's not coming back, you can't fix what happened between you two. And then when Rory shows up with the space pirates and is just gonna let them take over and kill everybody, he's like, nope, I can't let that happen.
I guess he did come to the realization of it then.
That's kind of what I think. And I think it happened in that moment. I don't think it had happened up until then. And then he's like, I've chosen my side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like you said, that's probably the breaking point right there.
Yeah.
When he saw that Mick was coming back with the pirates to take the ship, realized, okay, he's too far gone. I can't help him anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But this was the beginning of this awesome fight sequence.
Yeah, let's jump onto something positive, something fun.
I know.
I'm getting a little depressed thinking about where we're getting to, but oh my god, that fight scene. Well, the two of them, because it's on two different ships. Mm-hmm. Each fight, even though on separate ships with different people, they seem to all gel together. If we saw one person getting thrown, we would see the first half of the throw, and then it would cut to the other spaceship to another fight, and we would see the finishing of a throw by somebody, and it was like a seamless flow.
Oh, it was great. The transitions were amazing. Yeah. I mean, even for the ones, because where we start on the Waverider with the four that we've been, that had been right there. So it starts with Captain Cold, and then it transitions slowly into each of the characters. But the way that it transitions is just very seamless. Like, you see, like, Sarah fend off a couple people, and then that goes right into Kendra hitting someone, and that goes into Ray hitting someone. It was just really cool.
That was really, really smart editing. It was really well done, yeah.
It was very well done. Okay, so we've kind of wrapped up a lot of things. There's a couple more things that I kind of wanted to touch on before we get to the very, very end and finish up with Snart and Rory, because I think there's a lot of questions about that scene. I know
and a lot of emotion too.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think we have to address it. The Ray and Kendra kiss.
Oh, I thought I thought it was done. I thought she shut them down and said, I don't have time and room for this in my life. I got so much going on. And Ray said, okay, that makes sense. I understand. We're friends.
Yep.
That was the end of it, I thought.
I thought so too. And then she kisses him. I'm like,
What the hell? Well, the only thing that I can explain away from that is that the emotions got the best of her because she thought she was going to lose Ray. He's been nice to her. He's been friendly to her. They've been working a lot together. So there's been a friendship developed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's outside risking his life to fix the ship, and he almost doesn't make it. And when he comes back in, and it seems like he is kind of dead, I think her emotions just took over. She snapped. I don't want to lose somebody again. I'm not even over the first one. And also, I do really like you. I care a lot about you. And oh my god. And then she saves him. He comes back to life. And I think it was just such an influx of emotions from being sad to being happy that she just kisses him. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Life is short.
Why
I
not?
like you. That's the only thing I can defend about it.
It seemed very opportunistic. It caught up in the moment. Opportunistic's not the right word. She was caught up in the moment, and there were so many emotions. She just lost Carter. She was about to lose Ray, and they have this great chemistry. So she just gave in. It's like, that happened.
And I mean, they didn't really show much after that, so it might have just been I'm hoping it was just I'm glad you're alive. I almost lost you kiss, but I have a feeling they're going to continue it on, a little bit of a romance starting with them, and that's what I'm not happy about because I don't think...
It doesn't have a good place on this show, especially since Rip's whole background is the story of him and his wife.
Yeah, it's too soon for me. I don't like it. There's no need for romance on this show, or in this crew. There's no need for romance amongst the crew.
Not right now, at all.
And like I said, it's too soon. It's still too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I guess I could defend against my own comments. If you think about when Carter kept trying to force her to love him, and she kept pushing back harder and harder, saying, "I don't want this. I was never ready for this. I'm not gonna just automatically love you because you're saying I always have."
Mm-hmm.
And she held to that up until the moment before he died, and they hypnotized her, and she went back and she remembered everything, but didn't tell him that she remembered everything. And then he died, and of course we saw that emotional scene on the medical bed there that she's like, he died, and I didn't get a chance to tell him.
That's true. I bet that influenced her decision a lot as well.
Yeah. So,
I'd forgotten about that.
I still don't want a romance on this show. We have romance on all our other DC shows. We don't need it on this one. There's just no time. I get it. There's no time for it.
Ha ha ha. I see what you did there, Flash.
Yeah. So there. Is it addressed? Can we move on from that? I think
move on.
I think the general feeling of it from the public and our listeners is that nobody likes it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they were just going to introduce a fun, I say fun, that's in quotation marks, a fun love triangle just to lighten up the Arrows or Star City episode, just because that was heavy and dark, and it just needed something. I mean, they could have done something else, I guess, but I guess, just a love triangle. It just seemed silly and just something to kind of distract us and just to bring us back from that intensity of the rest of the episode. But I didn't feel like that was needed in this episode. It was intense, but it was intense on a different level. And it was intense, but it wasn't dark. There's difference. So I felt like it was needed in Star City because of the darkness of the episode. You needed something to lighten it up. But in this episode, it wasn't really needed, in my opinion. It was just an intense episode, but you didn't need a break like that.
Yeah,
I guess that wasn't. Well, I guess.
No, I get what you're saying. I don't think it was needed either. I mean, the type of intensity that this episode was that they might not make it out of this attack from the pirates. They're outmanned, they're outgunned, and they're not getting along. They're not even working as a team right now because Rory's causing trouble. So there's a lot going on, and we know something is building. Something is building up. Something bad is going to happen because Rory and Captain Cold are having a standoff, and so it's a different type of intensity that I think the emotion could have stayed at that peak, that edge of your seat, what is going to happen with these two, without having the, oh my god, you're alive kiss.
All right. Well, let's move on to this last scene.
Yes, the one that actually meant everything this episode.
I know. Okay, so, for one, where were they? They were somewhere.
Where were they indeed? They were in kind of a woodland area.
Yeah, it looked like a park almost.
But was that 2016 where Mick wanted to go? Was it Central City, like a park in Central City where he wanted to go? Or did they already jump back to 1958 and they just dumped him off there? And, I mean, we don't even know what happened to him. Did Snart freeze him to death?
I mean, that's the question. Did he really kill him? Because all we see is, him fire the gun. We don't actually see it happen. And I think we're all taught to be a little skeptical.
Yeah.
It's until you see a body, is he really dead? And so I just keep going back. I mean, this guy, he saved his life, and it's the only reason that Snart is still alive. So, can he kill him? And did he really do it? Was he pushed far enough to that edge to kill him?
Or did he think that Mick had gone too far, that he's unsavable, and it's better to put him out of his misery, so to speak?
Because he's a liability.
He doesn't cause any more trouble. Yeah, I mean, but do they really have to kill him? Yeah, he's a liability to the team, but do they really kill him, or need to kill him? Can't they just dump him off somewhere where he can't cause trouble, or he can just become a part of the trouble that's already there? Like, I don't think it's necessary to kill him. And like you said, would Cold actually kill him? Cold owes his life to Mick, and I don't know if Cold would have it in him. So I have a feeling possibly could have just frozen him enough so that they could get away or go deal with their mission or something, and he'll eventually thaw out. He's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Or he shot at something else that we just didn't see.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the real question. Because we've seen, it appears that these guns have different settings, if you will. Because when we were first introduced to them, they were freezing everything solid or burning everything, like, the minute they touched them. But so far on Legends, they've been almost more in, like, stun mode. So, like, you shoot them and it, like, knocks them back, or it, like, stops them a little bit because it's kind of cold, but it's not, like, it doesn't freeze them to death immediately or burn them to death immediately.
A bit more like a solid...
More like a laser kind of shoot.
Yeah, more like a laser. It was more of a solid state to it. Mm-hmm. So they would hit people and send them flying back instead of, as you said, freezing them or burning them down.
Yeah.
Because before, the cold gun would hit the person and it would just encase them in ice very quickly and freeze them up.
Yeah.
But it's not doing it now. He's hitting them like a
stun gun.
Like a stun gun, and they go flying back. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. But so I mean, that's the question. I mean, the way that they have the gun fire, it seems very intense. So it seems like whatever he's firing at, it's going to freeze solid.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
I am curious to see what people think on that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to our feedback and find out what people are saying.
I know.
And like you said here, the music in that scene, I mean, it was a tough scene.
It was very sad. Just the overall feel of it, I was like, oh, wow. I really noticed it the second time around, too. I was like, oh, this is just, it's so sad.
Well, and you could see Mick was gone. He was lost because he's saying, only one of us is going to get out of here, so you better do it, but I know that you can't. You don't have it in you to do it. And, and he's asking, why? I'm the one who saved you when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. Why are you choosing them over me? Like, you could see Mick was confused and hurt, but he was also, he had been hurt and confused. He was past that now, and he was trying to get one final answer out of Snart. Wasn't giving up, and he decided, well, it's going to be me or you, so you better kill me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's when you could see that Mick was lost. He
doesn't know what to do,
But now that brings us to, okay, we've lost Carter. Now we've potentially lost Heatwave. And we're not even halfway through the season yet. Or no, I guess we almost are. But
we almost are, yeah.
And we know we've heard in the news and the tips that they're they're going to possibly be, if this continues to a second season, they're going to be mixing characters up, bringing in new characters, or completely revamping a team. I don't know. But is this the start of that? The team starts to dwindle away, and maybe partway through the season, we're going to get introduced to new characters, or new teammates are going to join?
You know, I don't know. And I don't know that if that's what they're really doing, I don't know that I like that. Unless it fits organically. I mean, the death of Carter was shocking, and I was not expecting that at all. No. And then this thing with Heatwave.
I still wasn't expecting that. Not to lose him as a character on the show.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't either. Not to either have him killed or completely written off. I was not expecting that. But at least given the last couple of episodes, there's context for it.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't expecting it.
Right now, I'm not enjoying the outcome of that. I liked him as a character, and yeah, there's trouble. He's trouble, and him and Captain Cold are having some issues with each other, but I still like that dynamic. It led to some good storytelling and some good character arcs for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it that time, Harley? Is it feedback time?
I think it is.
Planetary powers, activate!
We got a lot of feedback this week. We
did.
3 emails and 2 voicemails. Well, technically 4 emails, but we've already gone through one. So
I think Lisa's counts is probably 3 or 4 emails in itself because she had like paragraphs for each topic.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Maybe we could say, guess what, Central City, we tied your record because
because we had 1 email that was effectively 4.
So let's do what we did before. We'll go email, voicemail, back and forth like that.
Yeah, I think that breaks it up pretty well.
All right, cool. You want to read, since I read the super one, would you like to read this email from Meg?
Yes, I can. All right, she says, "Hello, Wonder Twins. I've made it through all of the episodes driving to and from work this week, and you've been doing a great job. It has been fun listening to you both grow and get more comfortable with each other. Please keep it up. My only complaint, if you can call it a complaint, is that Harley is sometimes hard to hear. Not sure that anything can be done about that, but it could just be my bad hearing."
Okay. Thanks. No.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meg, for that. It could just be a volume issue. I'm the one who does the editing on this, so if she sounds quieter than I do, I will try to adjust that, because on my end, it sounds okay to me, so maybe I'll tweak the volume on her voice, and you can let us know if it sounds better on this episode.
Please let us know, because I didn't necessarily catch that either, but I am working on getting a different microphone set up, so that might also help.
Could be,
help fitness. So, all right, on to the episode. I'd give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. What in the world just happens? I like that.
We keep forgetting to do ratings.
I know. We'll have to incorporate it.
Maybe, yeah.
All right. I think everyone has done a great job of making a show that someone can just sit back and enjoy. I don't think too hard about it yet. Here are some things I noticed. I was not expecting that ending. I thought for sure that it was some grand scheme by Mick and that he was going to save everyone. I know he's a villain and he's been loose cannon, but I was still surprised. I guess that means the writers had done a good job convincing me that the team were all turning into good guys. Although the more I think about it, I shouldn't be surprised. The last episode did show how unhappy he was.
Yeah, very true.
Yes, I think we agree with all of those points. And is he really dead? Stupid Arrowverse for not letting me believe he's dead unless I see a body. Me too. I love Snart, and because of his past, I wouldn't be surprised if he really did kill Mick. He had done such a good job of showing his growth as a good guy, but that ending really drives home where he comes from and what he's capable of.
Yeah, good point.
That's a good point. Why would you leave Ray in charge? I don't know.
Is she asking us for our opinion, or is she asking the...
I think it's a general, why would you do that? Kind of a rhetorical, why would you do that?
Because I think because you look at who else there was left, I think he's the most...
The logical choice.
Yeah, would you want Sara in charge? An assassin? No. So,
no.
Yeah, would you leave the kid in charge? No.
But then he tells Kendra she's really in charge.
That's true.
So, I don't know. I thought that was weird. Anyway. She goes on, I enjoyed the scenes between Sara and Snart. I find her description of death fascinating. There's an acceptance and calmness that they had facing their death that seems to be lacking in similar situations on other shows. The actors did a great job.
Totally agree.
Those scenes were fantastic. And was that a Gilbert instead of a Gideon? I was only half paying attention. It was a Gilbert and a Gary and a Gideon.
Yes.
Not so sure about the flash forwards. It's not a flash forward reference.
All right, you're going to help us, Meg. We need to reterm that.
Yes. It was nice to get background info on Rory. Oops, sorry, Rip. Okay. It was nice to get background info on Rip, but I felt like they slowed the episode down a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. I felt like it brought a lot more to Rip's character. So.
Yeah, it just helped us understand him a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Last couple points here. Stein being a badass was awesome. It was a good thing there were new episodes of Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl this week. It would be a long month without something new.
Yes. Spread the word. Come to Legends. Tell all your friends.
Exactly. And I could listen to Snart read a phone book aloud and die a happy woman. Too much information? No, Meg. I completely agree with you.
Is there a little crush happening there?
Oh, the way he plays that character. He's so great. And I love him. I can totally see it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she finishes. Overall, it was a great episode. I thought it dragged at times, and the whole Ray Kendra love story annoyed me.
Uh-huh.
That's why my rating wasn't higher. Anyway, time to head to bed. Work comes early tomorrow morning. I look forward to hearing what you and everyone else think of the episode. Please keep up the great work. Until next time, Meg. No cool superhero name for me. Okay, but that means you need a superhero name. So why don't you send us some stuff you like, and maybe we'll come up with one for you.
Right off the bat, I'm thinking something along the lines of Cold and Ice because of her little crush that she's developing.
Ooh, yeah. We already have Killer Frost.
Killer Frost?
Okay, man.
Maybe, yeah.
Let us know what you think.
Killer Frost?
You appear.
Or something along those lines, something that would match.
Yeah, well,
Captain.
It can be Miss Ice because we already have a Miss Ice.
Yes, we have her this. But anyway, that's our idea. That are kind of the ideas that we're going to go with for you. So if you're okay with that, then do it. But thanks, Meg. Yeah, I think you're a first time. We have not heard from her before. I actually don't know of Meg from the other shows. So thank you for sending us some feedback for the first time.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. All right, and next we have a voicemail, and it is from Demko Listener.
Oh, yes.
He did promise us he was going to send in a voicemail in full-on Demko Listener voice mode, so let's see what he's got, because I haven't even heard it yet.
Greetings to you, Quick and Quinn, otherwise known as the Wonder Twins or something. This is the Demko Listener, and I'm just calling to let you guys know I finally found a way to get in touch with you. I borrowed the phone from this doctor friend of mine, and I'm able to call through time now. So, here I am, leaving you guys a voicemail. You guys are doing great. We're here in 2016, and we're enjoying everything you guys are bringing to us from the future. However, we heroes here in the present still have to fight the good fight, so don't forget about us here. This week's episode was, well, it was interesting. It was a big, fun, sci-fi romp into a Star Trek-type universe. It did have a very Star Trek-type feel. People may not know this about me, but the Demko Listener is quite the fan of Star Trek. Picard's my guy. Anyways, I like how they continue to develop the characters on this show and push forward the relationships and lack of relationships that have been established in the past. The love triangle, it's still there, but it is still a little distracting from the main plot lines. It was nice to see a little history into Rip Hunter's past, to see exactly how he became a Time Master. And the ending there with Rory and Snart was, well, it was good. I liked it. I liked the way they handled it, and I also think that setting something like that up at the end of an episode can make for a decent cliffhanger. We'll have to see what happens next week, but I don't think that Rory is out for good at this point. Anyways, that's all from here in the present. We will be listening to your adventures from here in 2016. You see, people like Shadow, the podcast overlord, and myself, we are today's heroes. But you guys, you are tomorrow's legends. Big thumbs up.
That was so awesome.
That was awesome, Demko. Oh, man, thanks so much. That was really cool. I can't imagine what that does to your throat after
just
talking.
Thinking that. I can't believe he kept up that voice for feedback.
Oh,
That's awesome.
That was fantastic. Thanks so much for doing that. I am right with you. I'm a Star Trek guy too, and Picard was my guy, so I totally can get along with you on that.
Yeah, lots of good points. He touched on a lot of things we said, and it was good stuff.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. And again, just thanks for doing that in your Demko listener voice. That was fun. That was a privilege to get to listen to that.
That was pretty fun. All right, so we've got another email here from the Bayou Shaman. Here we go. Hello, Flash and Harley. It is I, the Bayou Shaman, at last.
At last.
Great episode last night. I wish I could say I was surprised by Mick's betrayal, but I think we really saw the true Mick Rory in last week's 2046 episode. He's just not a team player, and I don't know if he ever will be. I doubt this is the last we see of him, but after Carter was killed and the recent news that the writers might plan to rotate out cast members, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I forgot to say in the last email, I did read an article that they're looking at signing the guy who played Connor Hawke to joining the team down the road.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Stein was great in this episode, like always. I loved his references to old sci-fi serials like The Space Ranger. It fits so well with all we know about him. And am I the only one who got an Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Death Star vibe when Stein was sneaking around to turn off the weapons array?
Totally. Now that you mention that, totally.
The Snart and Sara stuff was excellent, and I look forward to more with these two. Definitely my two favorite characters on the show. Me too. Jax really kind of slept through this one. Not really much for him to do to stand out. And Ray did something. Yeah, that's true. And Ray did something, finally. It's good to see him not bumbling for once on the series. That was a nice change.
Yeah.
Best of all, no Vandal Savage to be seen. I like Vandal, I really do, but I am sick of the almost got him. I watched another show for years called The Mentalist, and their main bad guy, Red John, drove the mythos of the show and never got caught until 5 seasons in, and it became taxing to always be this close, and he gets away. I don't want to see Legends of Tomorrow fall into the same trap.
I'm with you there. I watched Mentalist too, so I get what you're feeling, man.
I did not watch it, but I totally get the almost got him feel, so I don't want that. That'll get old after a while. An interesting behind-the-scenes note, while, yes, the CWDC crew are behind Legends of Tomorrow, the main showrunners are Chris Feddick and Phil Klemmer, both co-showrunners of Chuck, one of my all-time favorite shows. Knowing this, I can see their touch in it, the mix of action, family, and humor.
Yeah, interesting.
Very interesting. I also loved Chuck. It was so funny. And his next point is even funnier. He says, I mention this because it's cool, but also it makes Ray's lines in White Knights all the more funny. He played a spy in Chuck named Daniel Shaw, the spy of spies type. So all his mentions of always wanting to be a spy is so much funnier in context. I imagine he and the showrunners got a good laugh from it.
Oh, that would have been funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, and he was also Superman at one point, so.
That's on that point, sorry to interrupt the email, Lisa had said that to me as well. She goes, I don't know, I feel like the guy playing Ray Palmer, I can't accept him as Adam, because he looks more like he should have played Superman. And I'm like, have you not seen Superman Returns? No. Well, he is Superman. And then I texted her a picture of it. She's, oh my God.
That's so great.
That's pretty funny.
Well, he finishes up. Thanks for being here for us, Flash and Harley. I may have sort of nudged you two into this venture subconsciously before the show even aired, but I can't think of two better hosts to travel the timeline with. Next up, 1958. Well, thank you, Bayou Shaman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shaman.
And great feedback. Lots of good points. I loved the Chuck tie-in. I didn't realize the showrunners were doing it. I knew the tie-in with Brandon Routh, but that's really cool.
Yeah, no, great email and great feedback. Definitely a lot of strong points. We totally appreciate hearing from you. And now we've got yet another voicemail, and this one comes from our friend, the Green Butterfly.
Yay!
She must be still trapped on the Waverider with us, because I guess we took her to the future. She hasn't been able to get back to her own time yet.
Oh, that explains her cryptic message to another podcast that we both listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. well, not that we, Flash and Harley, both listen to, but we, Harley and the Green Butterfly, both listen to. And she over there is not the Green Butterfly because it's not a DC comic show, but it is a genre show.
Okay.
I'm talking about Sleepy Hollow if anybody else knows what I'm talking about.
I watched Sleepy Hollow. I'm way behind on it, though.
Yeah. There's another Golden Spiral Media podcast about it.
Okay. Well, here's a Green Butterfly.
Hi, Flash and Harley. This is your eye-in-the-sky Green Butterfly. Wow, look at all those stars. I wasn't sure if I could fly to space, so I thought I'd give it a try. If all else fails, Flash, you could run really fast and reset the timeline and everything would be alright. I give that episode 8 out of 10 Marooned spaceships. Nice. So we got a question answered this week that other time ships have an operating system like Gideon. The other time ship had an onboard computer named Gilbert. I think this makes sense, since the Time Lords can go anywhere in time, that it's possible that this operating system was invented by Barry Allen. Rip Hunter got the technology, and the Time Lords integrated it into their time ships. Still more character development for Snart. He's choosing the team at large over Rory, but the fact that he's having trouble with it and feeling bad for Rory because all of what Rory did for him in the past proves that his conscience continues to develop. It was very, very interesting to hear Sara describe death, and it made me think, since we saw that hologram of the voicemail of Rip's wife and son, whether he sort of feels like he's dead, because Sarah's definition of death was being so far away from everyone that you love and not being able to get to them. So even though Rip is alive, I think he may feel dead based on that definition. I'm all about teamwork, and I'm glad that Kendra didn't want Ray to die, wants to save a member of her team, but I don't think I was ready for them to make out. Still seems too soon to me. Maybe soon is too relative of a term for a time travel show. I don't know. My favorite quote was when Rory told Sara, "I like you, Sara. I'm only going to kill you a little bit." What does that even mean? I have no idea. But I liked it anyway. So I remember the newspaper from the first season of The Flash about the Flash has gone missing. And at that time, I assumed that the Flash had run so fast that he had changed the timeline and wiped himself out of existence. But now that we have the Legends in play, I'm wondering if something that the Legends do changes the timeline so much that it causes the Flash to disappear, thus making the two shows tie together. Have a super week.
Huh.
That would be interesting, that last point.
Yeah. Oh, as always, Green Butterflies, you have such amazing insight. The things that fly by on the show that a lot of us miss, and it's just the way you see. I love the way she sees things. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brings up a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily catch. That's good.
Yeah. she is feeling the same as us on a lot of the points about the romantic kiss, and I like how she seems to understand what happened between Cold and Heatwave, and yeah, she's very, very insightful with how she's.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Green Butterfly. Always nice to hear from you. Thanks for staying with us out here in the future and in the stars. I'm glad you liked the view.
And I hope you can get back so you can continue contributing to all of our other podcasts. You can always blame us. Just tell them we've taken you hostage.
We took you hostage for a little while.
All right. Well, we've got one last email. This one's short, I promise. Kelly, a.k.a. Master Wordsmith, had some quick thoughts that she wanted to share with us.
All right.
She's not minding the hookups because their dating pool is very shallow, but yuck to Palmer and Kendra not liking that. Liking Sara and Snart, thinks that Katie Lotz could have chemistry with a paper bag. You may not be wrong. Palmer's suit didn't malfunction finally, so that's a step in the right direction. Up until the backstory of Snart and Rory, I didn't care about Rory and his feelings of isolation from his partner and teammates. Snart is evolving into a hero and Rory is falling off of the cliff.
So is she saying that after that point she started to care about Rory a bit?
Oh, I don't know. But maybe
she says up until the backstory.
That's true. So maybe, now that she got some more information about that, she just felt a little bit better about that character. Kelly, let us know. Even though, I don't know, I don't think Rory's necessarily gone for good, so we'll see. That leads right into her point, because she says she doesn't think that Snart killed Rory, but she put him on ice or cooled him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good theory. I like that one. And then Rip is not a leader because he doesn't know how to be one. As a Time Master, they work alone, so it explains why he lacks the interpersonal and leadership skills.
Exactly. Thank you for putting it into much better words than I did, Kelly.
Yeah, that was very well said.
You are the master of words. Yes.
See you in the funny pages, Kelly, a.k.a. Master Wordsmith.
Cool. Thanks for sending that in again, Kelly. Always appreciate your words of wisdom.
Yes.
Well, Harley, I think that is it for us tonight.
I think it is.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your feedback this week. Love that you're still sticking with us during this time off period for the other shows. Hopefully we'll have you all back next week. Harley, you've got a new couch session coming up.
I do. Do you want me to go ahead and give a preview of my question?
Sure, give a preview, and then people can join you on the Facebook page and add their thoughts to it.
All right. Well, yeah, I will set up a post with the couch sessions question. But the question is, what is your theory on the AIs? Now we have not only Gideon, but Gary and Gilbert. Do all the AIs have G names? What do you think?
G names. Good one. Yeah, I'm curious to see what people think about that, because that was one that we've been wondering about from the get-go about Gideon, and now they gave us answers. So everything will go with us.
Absolutely.
And then from there, we would just like to remind you of our contact information. If you want to join us in the discussion, you could submit feedback via email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. Just remember to please submit that by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, following the show, which airs on Thursdays. You can also join us on the Facebook group page, which is, the actual address is facebook.com/group/Tomorrow's Legends. Or you can just do a search for Tomorrow's Legends, and you will find our darling little faces on the cover page there with the title.
Yeah, it's pretty great cover art, if I do say so myself.
I do like it. We also have a Twitter handle. It is @Cybercast. And all these details and more can be found on our website, tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com, where you can also through there subscribe to us through iTunes, download episodes, and leave comments on each of the shows. And while you're in iTunes, if you could leave us a rating and review, that would be so appreciated too.
That sounds great.
And that's it for us, Harley. So we've got a week till the next one.
Yes, we are back next week, so we are, not on hiatus as far as we can tell.
So until then, I am The Flash, signing off for today.
This is Harley Quinn, and I'm out.